I'll open the meeting. I would welcome you all to this combined meeting of the Canterbury branch of the New Zealand Institute of International Affairs and the National Centre for Research on Europe. It's my privilege and pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, His Excellency Mr. Sem Fabrizi, Ambassador and Head of Delegation of the European Union and accredited to Australia and New Zealand since September of 2013. He was for 3 years, 2010 to 2013, an advisor for external relations to the President of the European Council in Brussels. His Excellency is to speak to us tonight on the European Union moving beyond crisis with new leadership.
Thank you, Honourable Perlington, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for this invitation, and thanks to the New Zealand Institute for International Affairs and the National Centre on Europe for this invitation. I delivered a speech last year in Wellington, and I'm delighted to be with you tonight. It's my first time in the South Island, my first time in Christchurch, so I'm delighted to be in a city who is recovering after a very difficult period. The subject of my conversation with you, like to be more a conversation. Maybe at the end we can have a change of views. Is to, since a very important speech looks like moving beyond the crisis with a new leadership in place. What it means. I would like to touch basically 3 points. What happened in the last 3-4 years in Europe. What is the situation now and where we are going to in the future, and of course, last but not least, what links between the European Union and New Zealand. So when we look at the future, we always have to look at our past. There's always a continuity between past and future, but I will not go too much in the past. Don't worry, I will just go a very few years just to put in the context what is the reality of Europe today. I presume you have read the newspaper, the global financial crisis, the Eurozone difficulties, and so on and so forth. And maybe what is less known is what Europe has done in these 3-4 past years to face and overcome these difficulties. Basically, we are working in Brussels, in Europe, all member states, with four objectives ahead of us. The first one was to restore confidence in the financial credibility of Europe. It might take long to explain, but maybe I can quote the famous words of a compatriot of mine, Mario Draghi, with the president of the European Central Bank, said, "We will do whatever it takes to save the euro." It's a phrase that contains a very important message, which is member states who share the common currency will do everything in their power to maintain the credibility of the euro. And from 2012 afterward, this confidence has come back in the market, and a lot of process and a lot of reform has been made, and the last one has been on the creation of a banking union. I will come back on shortly on that. The second one is we restore the financial credibility, which is good. Market believes still in the euro, but we have to make the economies, the real economies, more resilient. And you might also remember that some member states went into a program with help by International Monetary Fund and the European Union And those countries who, for different reasons, enter this program, has all exited Ireland in December last year, Spain in January this year, Portugal in May this year, and Greece is coming back to the market quite soon. It's starting to sell its own debt again. So when you sell your debt, means your creditors trust you. Of course, they price the debt they buy, but they trust you. So Greece is coming back to the market as well. And if we look also at the latest statistics, Greece is starting from a low point, of course, but is recovering much quicker than we expect. So financial credibility first. Second is making economies more resilient. The third point, trying to accommodate and to support this process, because we are not devaluating our currency. We are going internal adjustment, and a lot of work has been done at the level of reforming our labor market to make the labor market more flexible, more adjustable to the challenge of the economy. And slowly we see that the number of unemployed decreasing very, very slowly, but decreasing, and especially in the new generation. This one happening inside Europe, but we also look outside Europe, and we launch in a quite important free trade agenda to liberalize the trade. And we launched in 2012 the biggest ever trade negotiation with the United States, called the TTIP, Transatlantic Investment Trade and Investment Partnership. We are committed to do. It's an agreement between the first and the second world economy. So you might imagine the scale and the complexity at stake, but the process is going very well. And in the meanwhile, we are negotiating a free trade agreement with Japan, and we closed two good free trade agreements, one with Korea and the other with Canada. We also use the instrument the EU as institution has, our budget, to make a pro-growth budget. The European Union has a budget of 1% of the European GDP. Is 1 trillion euro over 7 years. It's not a big number, but it is the budget of the European Union as such, and we have put money on where we believe the growth will come. So we believe the growth will come from science and innovation, and we launched this program called Horizon 2020, which is 80 billion program over 7 years to invest on research, innovation, on the simple equation that is, you create innovation, you create business opportunities, you create growth, you create employment. Is as simple as that. And the fourth track has been to make our institution and our framework more resilient, because we the founders the founding fathers of the Eurozone decided to pull together a monetary policy, but the fiscal policies and the economic policy was left at the national level. So in a period of calm, everything went smoothly, everybody was sharing the same currency, sharing the same interest rate, but the divergences between the economy who shared the euro were different. And so when we arrived during the economic crisis, we saw a country like Germany with at the beginning of the 2008, 2009 with the same interest rate of Greece. And when the crisis exploded, Greece went plus 12% and Germany went even going negative. So that is not the problem of euro, it's problem of the economy, the sustain and the structure of the country. And so we need to make a more coordinated economic policy if we want to keep the common currency. Of course, to keep the common currency, you need also have a control of banks. And we have the central bank who is print the European money, but the national banks were left to the different regulators. It's like in New Zealand you have the central bank who oversees the New Zealand banks. In the European system we had the same, but we realized that you cannot have a single currency with the 28 different regulator or supervisor. And in these 3 years it's been launched a complex process. We are very happy that right now we have the banking union. Means that right now the central bank, which is placed in Frankfurt, is able to oversee the whole 6,000 banks across Europe. No one is excluded. And if and have a system in which not only you make a supervision system, but also if one of these banks should have a problem, should be restructured or failed, doesn't go as it happened in the past, in the recent past, to taxpayer to keep the banks alive, but we created a fund in which the banks can be restructured. This has been a major innovation. We consider that is the biggest innovation since the launch of the euro. If we can make a comparison, it took 150 years to the United States to move from the dollar to the federal banking supervision in the Federal Reserve Bank. For us it took only 15 years, of course in a completely different landscape, but just to give you the idea how much this banking union is important.